Hi, this is Chris with Nightfall Audiobooks, and I have for you something a bit different today. Thrift Store Horror is my collaborator on the channel. I use them for resources on what to read next and how to get books that I'm missing. And in some cases, I'm tracking down the wrong book entirely because it's the UK release and I already have the United States release. Anyway, recommendation was 13 Tales of Horror by 13 Masters of Horror. This is a compilation novel. It's all short stories. I have not read this before, but it came highly recommended by Thrift Store Horror. So we have stories by R.L. Stine, Caroline B. Cooney, Christopher Pike, D.E. Atkins, A. Bates, J. Bennett, Carol Ellis, Diane Ho, Lael Litke, Sinclair Smith, J.B. Stamper, Ellen Emerson White, and Patricia Windsor. Half of these authors have worked with Scholastic and Point Horror in the past. This should be pretty fun. And we all know about R.L. Stine and Christopher Pike, right? Believe it or not, I haven't really read any Diane Ho, or Sinclair Smith, or Caroline B. Cooney, but I do have a Cooney novel in the works, so stay tuned for that. I will be reading one story from this compilation and then publishing that as its own episode. I'm going to use this book like glue. If there's any holes or gaps or weirdness going on in my schedule, I'll be using one of these stories to fill that void. Just something fun to do. So let's begin. If you would like to get in touch with me, you can write me an email, nightfallaudiobooks@gmail.com. I am also on YouTube at Nightfall Audiobooks. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the join button to show your support. I also have a Patreon page, patreon.com/nightfallaudiobooks. So tell your friends, tell your mom, tell whoever you think would like to listen to me narrate them a story. Thank you very much for listening, and let's begin. Welcome to a Nightfall Audiobooks production of The Spell by R.L. Stine, from 13 Tales of Horror. I knew I should call the police about William, but I'm just sitting here staring at the phone. It's as if someone has cast a spell over me or something. William will be here soon. I don't know what he's going to do to me. I really should call the police. But I keep thinking this just isn't the way it's supposed to be. I mean, we were all such good friends. All 5 of us. Erica and Stan were my friends first. But when I started going out with William, it was like the 4 of us had been close forever. Marty, too. Sure, Marty was always teasing William, always making jokes, always giving William a hard time. But Marty was like that with everyone. With his curly red hair and his chubby freckled face, his laughing blue eyes, Marty was a real Huck Finn type. You just had to like Marty. And even William, who was so serious, so earnest, so intense, thought Marty was a great guy. At first, anyway. The 5 of us went to all the basketball games together, and we used to drive out on the river road in Stan's old Pontiac and just hang out there at the falls, sitting in the tall grass, watching the water trickle over the rocks, or staring up at the slow drifting clouds. Sometimes we had impromptu softball games there, on the flat grass on the other side of the road. It was usually Stan and Erica against William, Marty, and me. Long, lanky Stan was so good in sports, he and Erica usually won even though we outnumbered them. Stan was so funny about the baseball bat he always brought. He claimed it really had belonged to Pete Rose during his rookie season in Cincinnati, and Stan treasured it. When we batted with it, he was always yelling at us to make sure the label was up so we wouldn't crack it. William didn't like our softball games. He isn't very athletic. Sometimes when it was William's turn to bat, I'd actually see a glint of fear in those strange, slate-gray eyes of his. He usually struck out, or sent a weak grounder to the pitcher and was tagged out at first. And then Marty would really get on William's case. We all thought it was very funny, and William was always a good sport about all the ribbing. At least he didn't seem to mind. One really hot Saturday afternoon, William hit the ball up, a high fly that sailed over Marty's head and kept going. William just stood open-mouthed staring at it. He'd never hit the ball that far before. "Run, William! Get moving!" I shouted, and then I saw that Marty was chasing the ball, running at full speed, staring straight up, his glove outstretched, his sneakers pounding on the ground. He chased it right into the river, made a desperate dive for it, but just missed. What a splash he made! When he came up sputtering, he gazed into his glove. He couldn't believe he hadn't made the catch. Before I realized what was happening, the 4 of us were running into the river to join Marty. The water was freezing, and our sopping wet clothes weighed a ton, but we had so much fun ducking each other and splashing, tackling each other, and mainly acting crazy. That was one of the best days of my life. I'm not sure when things started to go wrong. It may have been when William got so interested in hypnotism This was about the same time that Marty got the lead in the school musical, The Music Man, a major disappointment for William. William is really very shy. He usually speaks very quietly and he blushes easily, but he can be very intense too. Those weird gray eyes of his light up, and he starts to talk very rapidly, very excitedly, raking his large hands back through his long, wavy, white blonde hair. What I'm saying is that William has a theatrical side too. I guess that's part of the reason he became so interested in hypnotism. He can be very dramatic, and there's a side of him that likes to show off. That's why I wasn't surprised when he stopped me at my locker on the day of the Music Man auditions and said, "Jennifer, I can't go home with you this afternoon. I've decided to try out." William really wanted to be the star. It meant he had to compete with Marty, who had been in the drama club all year, and who the drama coach thought was wonderful. Marty was just so popular, but William auditioned anyway, and then when Marty got the part, big surprise, William never talked about it again. About a month later, Erica, Stan, and I went to see Marty in the play. He was really good. William said he wasn't feeling well, so he didn't come. None of us saw William as much as before, not even me. He was so involved with his hypnotism studies. He had stacks of old books about it that he had brought from some grungy bookstore downtown. I have to admit I was a little hurt that he was spending more time up in that attic room of his, poring over those dusty old books than he spent with me. I tried to get interested in it too. In fact, I begged William to show me what he was learning, but he stared at me and shook his head. He didn't want to share any of it. Of course, Marty teased William about the hypnotism right from the start. Marty started calling him the Great Foodini, and he joked that William would soon start making us all bark like dogs and cluck like chickens. Then he'd start chasing William around, barking at him, nipping at him like a crazed puppy. We all thought it was funny. I don't think any of us realized how seriously William took his hypnotism. I could see that he tensed up when Marty started giving him a hard time, but even I didn't realize what an angry person William was becoming. I didn't even pick up on it when Marty got the part-time job in that Italian restaurant, the job William had also interviewed for. All 5 of us were studying at my house the night Marty got the job. I saw William's eyes go cold and clear as ice, but he didn't say anything until Marty left. Then he turned to me and said under his breath, "I really needed that job." Erica overheard and quickly said, "So did Marty. His folks have been on his back for months to get a job." "Why do you stick up for him?" William screamed at her. I was shocked by his anger. I wasn't," Erica stammered. "Give Erica a break," Stan said. He'd been twirling that Pete Rose bat of his in the corner, but he quickly came to her defense. "Everyone gives Marty a break," William insisted with astonishing bitterness. "Why doesn't anyone ever give me a break?" Then he grabbed his jacket off the floor and stormed out without looking back, slamming the kitchen door behind him. After that, things really changed. The 5 of us just weren't comfortable together anymore. Marty spent most nights working at the restaurant. I still saw Erica and Stan, but we didn't hang out as much as we used to. And William was spending more and more time in his attic, working on whatever it was he was working on. I still cared about him a lot. He was so much more interesting than other guys, so much deeper, but I was really worried about how distant he was becoming. He seemed so unhappy. One Friday night, the 4 of us were at a local hangout called the Pizza Palace, and William seemed to be in a really good mood. Marty was working. We talked about driving over and surprising him. Then the subject got changed to William and his hypnotism. I guess we were all teasing him about it. But for once, William was laughing too. "Let's try an experiment," he suddenly suggested, smiling and jumping to his feet. He made Erica, Stan, and me squeeze together on one side of the booth. "Let's see if I really can hypnotize you," he said. All 3 of us immediately started clucking like chickens. We were laughing and goofing around. I felt more than a little nervous. I wondered what it felt like to be hypnotized. William held up a teaspoon and told us to relax and follow it with our eyes. Erica had to hold her hand over her mouth to stop giggling. I think she was nervous too. Eventually, we all settled down and followed William's instructions. He moved the teaspoon slowly from side to side, and we followed it with our eyes, trying to relax all of our muscles, trying to clear our minds, concentrating on the spoon. After a while, William set the spoon down and stared at us expectantly. All 3 of us burst out laughing. It hadn't worked. We weren't the least bit hypnotized. William sighed. His face fell. He was so disappointed. "Back to the drawing board," he muttered unhappily, shaking his head. Of course, the jokes and wisecracks started to fly fast and furious. It would be a long time before anyone let William forget what a flop he was. After that funny night, the 4 of us didn't get together again for a few weeks. I didn't see William much during that time either. Maybe the last night all 5 of us were together was the night in William's kitchen. It was a warm spring night, I remember. We were just hanging out. Marty was goofing on something or other. I think he was imitating Mr. Sheen, our French teacher. Erica and Stan were being sort of lovey-dovey, smooching and kidding around at the kitchen table against the wall. Then Marty had to leave. He was late for work at the restaurant. After he left, it got sort of quiet. William seemed to be preoccupied. He barely said a word. Maybe we should go too, Stan suggested awkwardly. He and Erica stood up from the table. No, wait, William said. He glanced at me and smiled. Then he walked to the refrigerator and pulled a quart container of ice cream from the freezer. Hey, all right, Stan declared. What flavor? Heath Bar Crunch, William replied. He took a silver ice cream scoop from the drawer and got some bowls out. I remember how the scoop seemed to glisten, catching the light from the low ceiling fixture. The 3 of us stared at William as he scooped the ice cream into the bowls. I guess we were surprised that he suddenly seemed cheerful and nice, like his old self. Here, William said, shoving the bowls across the counter toward us, the scoop still glistening in his hand. Have some ice cream. We started shoveling in the ice cream. It was hot in the kitchen, and it tasted really good. But then Stan started teasing William about his hypnotism. I gave Stan a look, trying to signal to him to stop, but he didn't see me. Are you still into the look deep into my eyes stuff? Stan asked. Or have you moved on to pulling rabbits out of hats? Erica laughed, and, to my surprise, William chuckled. Stan kept up the teasing, taking over Marty's role, I guess, begging William to show us some magic tricks, to levitate us, dumb stuff like that. William took all the kidding good-naturedly. I hoped maybe he was returning to his old self. Then he suggested the 4 of us go out for a walk. He put his arm around me as we went out the back door, and headed around the house to the front. I sort of snuggled against him as we walked, feeling good about things. It was only about 9 o'clock, but a lot of houses were already dark. The trees seemed to whisper in the soft, warm breeze, casting rolling shadows over the lawns. We walked 3 blocks and reached Park Street. William squeezed my hand gently as a large oil truck roared past. Park Street is only 2 lanes, but it connects to the highway, and it is the main thoroughfare for trucks heading through town. Several cars whirred by, and then a moving van, its enormous tires bouncing over the bumpy pavement. Everyone seemed to ignore the speed limit on this stretch of the road. Even this late at night, Park Street was hard to cross. Should we head back or keep going? Erica asked, her long black hair billowing behind her as another large truck bombed past. William squeezed my hand again, then turned to face Erica and Stan. Go stand on the yellow line, he told them, and don't move till I tell you. William, I exclaimed, pulling my hand free. I expected Erica and Stan to laugh at him, but, to my shock, they didn't hesitate. Without even glancing to see if anything was coming, they both stepped into the street and walked to the yellow line that ran down the middle. William, what are you doing? I cried. A car roared past, swerving to the right and blasting its horn. Erica and Stan didn't move. They stood on a yellow line. They didn't look frightened or alarmed. Their expressions were calm. Down the road, I saw a huge semi zooming toward them. William, bring them back, I shouted. Then I started screaming at Erica and Stan. Come back! Get out of the street! Come back! The truck's horn drowned out my frantic cries. I could see the driver shaking his fist at us as he roared past without slowing. I looked away. I couldn't bear to watch. When I turned back, Erica and Stan were still standing calmly in place in the center of the street. William, please, they're going to get killed, please, I pleaded with him, pulling his arm. I hated the look on his face. His gray eyes seemed to glow. His whole face was lit up by his excitement. He was so happy. Swear to me you won't tell them what happened, he said, leaning close, his strange eyes burning into mine. Huh? I stared back at him. They won't remember any of it, William said, watching with pleasure as his station wagon swerved to miss Erica and Stan. Swear to me you won't tell them, and I'll bring them back. I swear, I cried eagerly. I would have sworn to anything. Come on back, William shouted. Smiling pleasantly, Erica and Stan walked together across the street and rejoined us. I was so relieved, I had tears running down my cheeks. What's wrong, Jennifer? Erica asked me, seeing the tears. I glanced at William, who was watching me intently. The wind blew something into my eye, I told her. After that night, my life became something like a dream, just bits of places and activities, a blur of faces and unconnected conversations. I'd go to school, do my homework, see my friends, talk to my parents, but everything seemed different, out of order, as if my life were a jigsaw puzzle that had been dropped on the floor, the pieces scattering everywhere. I should have told someone, anyone, about what William did to Erica and Stan, but I didn't. I can't explain why I didn't. I really don't remember what I was thinking. My memory is so clouded. I remember talking to Marty a few days later. School had just let out. We were standing in back near the student parking lot. The sky was solid gray as William's eyes. I started to tell Marty that I was worried about William. He asked me why. He's just become so weird, I told him. I don't know if I intended to tell Marty what William had done. Even if I had, I didn't get the chance. I suddenly realized that William was watching us. I saw him ducking down low, hiding behind the hood of a Honda Civic, spying on us. I felt a cold stab of fear. Listen, Marty, I've got to go, I said. Marty looked really surprised as I took off. He called after me, but I didn't stop. William caught up with me a few blocks from my house. The sky was even darker now, and it started to drizzle. William grabbed my arm and pulled me behind the hedges of someone's yard. He looked very worked up, very angry. William, let go of my arm, I cried. He was really hurting me. He apologized, but he didn't let go. So you're on Marty's side too, he said quietly. He looked very hurt, as if I had betrayed him. For a moment, I felt sorry for him. He was just so mixed up. I wanted to comfort him. I wanted to tell him that everything was going to be okay. I wanted to see the old William again. But I guess that was impossible. William loosened his grip on my arm. There's no point in being on Marty's side, he said softly, staring into my eyes. Marty is dead meat. Huh? William, what on earth? He was scaring me now. He was really scaring me. Why didn't I just run away? Why did I stand there and listen to him? Marty's going to die, William said, his face a blank, revealing no emotion at all. Stan is going to do it. You're kidding, right? I managed to say. This is some kind of joke? This was too crazy, too crazy. No, he said, matter of fact. Everyone is against me. Everyone is on Marty's side. I can't let that go on. You understand, Jennifer. I can't let everyone be on Marty's side. So what can I do? What choice do I have? Stan is going to kill Marty. I'm going to hypnotize Stan and Erica. Then Stan will take his precious baseball bat and kill Marty. You can't, I managed to cry, turning my head. I suddenly couldn't bear to look at William's face. Was this the same guy I had cared so much about? He laughed. Why can't I? He demanded. You can't hypnotize someone to do something that's against their will. It won't work. His expression turned thoughtful. He was silent for a while. My heart was pounding in my chest. The drizzle turned to rain. I guess you're right, he said finally. I guess it won't work. He walked away. I stood there for the longest time, the rain soaking my hair, soaking my clothes. I stood there watching him walk away, until he turned the corner and disappeared. Why didn't I call the police, or tell my parents, or get help of any kind? I can't explain it. My life was a dream. One scene ran into another, all a jumble. I remember that I felt a little relieved knowing that you can't hypnotize someone and force them to do something against their will. Knowing that made me feel a lot better. William had even agreed with me on that. But then I realized he had agreed much too quickly. I began to feel troubled again. As soon as I got home, I changed into dry clothes, wrapped a towel around my wet hair, and phoned Erica. Listen, I said before she could get a word in. William is going to try to hypnotize you and Stan. Huh? She cried. Stan must have been standing right next to her. I could hear him asking her something in the background. William is going to try to hypnotize you, I repeated. Don't let him. Just pretend to be hypnotized, okay? It took me a while to persuade Erica to believe me. Finally, she started to understand. Let me get this straight, Jennifer. You want us to pretend to be hypnotized? Yes, I told her. Resist William with all your strength. You can't be hypnotized if you don't want to be, but go along with it. Afterwards, the three of us can figure out how to deal with William. Erica agreed and hung up to explain things to Stan. That made me feel a little better. William's plan cannot work, I told myself. No way. I saw him in school the next day. He smiled at me across the room during third period study hall. The smile made me feel sad. It reminded me of how William used to be. He called me that night, an hour after dinner. Why don't you come over, Jennifer? Erica and Stan are already here. We're just hanging out. Just hanging out. I suddenly felt cold all over, and terribly heavy, as if I were made of stone. Heavy with dread, I guess. But I knew I had to go over to William's. I had no choice. The three of them were in the kitchen, seated around the table when I arrived. Erica gave me a nervous glance as I came in, then quickly looked away. Stan was giggling about something with William, a high-pitched, nervous giggle I'd never heard from him before. It was obvious to me that Erica and Stan were both terribly nervous. This hypnotism thing really had them spooked. I said hi to everyone and tossed my jacket into a corner. William, I could see, was the only calm one in the room. He was chatting playfully with Stan, telling him something that was making Stan utter that high-pitched giggle. "How come you called us over tonight?" Erica asked William, interrupting whatever he was telling Stan. She glanced at her watch. "I've got a ton of homework to do. Miss Farrell really piled it on tonight." William stood up, smiling pleasantly at her. "You said you were just finishing dinner when I called," he said, walking over to the fridge. "I thought you might like some dessert." He removed a quart of ice cream from the freezer, then pulled the silver ice cream scoop from the drawer and held it up so that it sparkled under the kitchen light. He opened the carton and began scooping perfect ice cream balls into the bowls. "Here, have some ice cream," William said. Then, leaving the bowls on the counter, he stepped to the head of the table and stood staring down at Stan and Erica. "Stan, when I finish talking to you, I want you and Erica to drive to your house and get your Pete Rose bat," he said softly, speaking slowly and distinctly. Stan nodded in agreement. William continued his instructions. "Every night, just after 10 o'clock, Marty holds the garbage bags out the back entrance of the restaurant. He puts them in a dumpster in the alley behind the restaurant. I want you two to drive to the alley, park there. Be sure to turn off your headlights. Stan, you wait behind the dumpster. When Marty comes out dragging the garbage bags, swing your bat at his head. I want you to hit him 6 times in the head. Do you understand? You swing the bat 6 times. Stan and Erica both nodded. Erica glanced at me. Her face was as expressionless as Stan's. Neither of them reacted to William's instructions in any way, but I could tell they were faking it. I could tell they were pretending to be hypnotized. Thank God I reached them in time, I thought. Thank God I persuaded them to resist William. "Okay, guys, go get the bat," William instructed them in a low, calm voice. Erica and Stan scooted their chairs back and climbed to their feet. Without saying a word, they headed toward the back door. "Oh, one more thing," William called after them. They stopped at the door and looked back. "Stan, when you finish hitting Marty, be sure to leave the bat right next to him before you drive home." Stan nodded in agreement, then he and Erica disappeared out the door. William gave me an odd, satisfied smile, then walked to the sink and began washing off the ice cream scoop. He was humming cheerfully to himself. "Too bad, William," I thought, staring hard at his back, "but your hideous plan isn't going to work." Erica and Stan weren't hypnotized at all. "You're going to fail, William," I thought, standing up, picking up my jacket, preparing to leave. "You're going to fail, and maybe after you fail, we can reach you again. Maybe we'll be able to help you." He turned around. "Where are you going?" he asked, surprised to see me putting on my jacket. "Home," I told him. He shook his head. "No, you're coming with me." He looked up at the brass kitchen clock over the sink. "We're going for a ride a little later." I sat back down. I didn't resist. Time passed. I don't know how much. We were in his parents' car, driving through the night. There was a full moon and a sky full of tiny white stars. It must have been pretty late. A lot of the houses we passed were dark. There were few cars on the road. When William turned onto Madison Drive, I realized where we were going. To the restaurant, where Marty worked. William turned into the alley. I squeezed the door handle, gripped by fear. I had to force myself to breathe. In a few seconds, we'd be behind the restaurant, and William would see that his plan had failed. What would he do then? Would he figure out that I had tipped off Stan and Erica? What would William do? What would he do to me? The car slid slowly through the alley, brick walls on both sides of us. I squeezed the door handle and stared straight ahead through the windshield. In the white glare of the headlights, I could see the back of the restaurant now. I could see the kitchen door half open, a thin rectangle of gray fluorescent light escaping from inside. I could see 2 metal trash cans lying on their sides, their lids behind them in the concrete alley. I could see a large green dumpster. I could see a plastic garbage bag on the ground in front of the dumpster, full on its side, open, some of its contents having spilled to the ground. And then the headlight seemed to focus on a body lying in front of the toppled garbage bag. It was Marty, sprawled face down in a round, dark puddle of blood. His arms and legs stretched out on the pavement, his head bashed in, still oozing blood, the baseball bat lying at his feet. No, 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 no! Was that me screaming? Something snapped. My mind suddenly felt so clear, as if a weight had been lifted, as if a heavy curtain had been pulled away. No, no, no! Yes, it was me screaming. And now I was pushing open the car door, running hard, my sneakers thudding on the hard alley concrete, gasping for breath. I was running away. I was escaping from William. I was free. Finally free. Everything was so clear. Without slowing down, I glanced back. William wasn't coming after me. The car hadn't moved. He was still behind the wheel. I was free. I was getting away. I ran all the way home. It didn't take long. I knew what I had to do. I had to call the police. Finally, I could call the police. Finally, I could get help. I burst through the front door, calling my mom and dad, but no one was home. I stopped in the front hallway, leaned against the banister, rested my head on the railing. I waited for the throbbing in my temples to stop, waited for my breathing to return to normal. Then I walked across the dark living room to the phone in a corner next to the couch. As I reached for the receiver, the phone rang. A chill ran down my back. Hello? Hi, Jennifer. It's me, William. William, I have to talk to you, I said, unable to hide the fear in my voice. It's too late for talking, he said calmly. I have to come over now, Jennifer. I have to deal with you. But, William, I took care of Marty, he said, his voice low and steady. I took care of Stan and Erica because they were on Marty's side. Now you're the only one left. But I don't understand, I cried, gripping the phone so hard my hand ached. You couldn't have hypnotized them. I told them to resist. I told them just to pretend. I could hear him chuckle on the other end of the line. It was the most frightening sound I had ever heard. I didn't need to hypnotize them, he explained. They were already hypnotized, Jennifer. I hypnotized all three of you that day at the Pizza Palace. No, you didn't, I cried. You failed, remember? I made you think I failed. But, William, how? Jennifer, haven't you heard of a post-hypnotic suggestion? I hypnotized you at the pizza restaurant. I gave you all a post-hypnotic suggestion, so there was never any need to hypnotize you again. But, William, no more talking, he said abruptly. I have no choice. I have to take care of you too, Jennifer. I'm coming right over. I realized I was trembling all over, trembling so hard I nearly dropped the phone. William? The line was silent for a moment, and then William said, Here, have some ice cream. He hung up right after that. And I'm sitting here in the dark in front of the phone. I know I should call the police, or run, or something, but I didn't seem to be able to. It's so dark in here, so quiet. Oh well, William will be here any minute. Maybe he'll tell me what to do. This has been a Nightfall Audiobooks production of The Spell by R.L. Stine. Hi, this is Chris with Nightfall Audiobooks, and thank you very much for joining me for my production of The Spell by R.L. Stine from 13 Tales of Horror. This was fun. This was great. If you have read The Sleepwalker, it deals with a guy who is trying to hypnotize somebody too, and that leads to the main character sleepwalking through most of the novel. This is a little bit like that. It's kind of a rehashed storyline on Stine's part, but I feel like the plot was executed a lot better in The Spell versus The Sleepwalker. I haven't read a short story by R.L. Stine before, and it's really nice to see how well he can function when he's firing on all cylinders and make a genuinely creepy story in around 20 pages. I recommend this story. If you like R.L. Stine, like as much as I do. Having William make Jennifer just sit there in the dark and wait for him to arrive, man, that is chilling. That is devious. That's like, the bad guy's coming, but I can't run away. It's fantastic. I really recommend this story. This was a lot of fun to read. So what do I read next? I don't know. Please send me an email, nightfallaudiobooks@gmail.com. I'm also at home right here on YouTube at Nightfall Audiobooks. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit the join button to show your support. Any help is greatly appreciated. I really do mean that. I also have a Patreon page, patreon.com/nightfallaudiobooks. So tell your friends, tell your mom, tell whoever you think would like to listen to me tell them tales of horror. Thank you very much for listening, and I will see you next time.